Well, good afternoon, viewers, listeners. Here we are, fighting fit. Are we? Well, I'm half fighting fit. Are you fully fighting fit, Pat? Or
Well, I'm on 50% battery charge as well.
well, that's
Uh,
the two of us. So it's like two half wits would make one wit.
yeah, I do have it.
Likewise,
Yeah,
two nearly knackered oldies would make one healthy body. Anyway, we're here to talk about. There's so many bloody things going on at present. The world just seems to be erupting with big and small problems, or small problems that may well become big ones. I was listening to a podcast there not very long ago with that guy I mentioned before, Ezra Stein, and he was talking to the governor of Utah, where Charlie Kirk was killed. He's a Republican, and well, he wasn't. He seemed a reasonable sort of guy, but maybe that was because Ezra Klein was very reasonable about it. But yeah, I got a sense of some degree of hope that not everybody had totally sold out in the Republican Party, that is, to the Trump message. I mean, he didn't criticize Trump.
While I would like to believe that, it's hard to see the evidence for it.
Mm,
Like
mm.
Charlie Kirk, what his memorial service was yesterday. The place I think was it was it was held in Arizona, the Farm Stadium or the Stadium Farm. I can't remember the name of Arizona, and there was a huge crowd there. Trump was there, and Charlie Kirk was described as a martyr. Jude, Jude, we mentioned this again on Saturday, but here's the thing. Charlie Kirk was no martyr. Like, I don't agree for a second anybody should be shot for their political viewpoints or whatever. But here, the man's track record was one of total intolerance. Jude, the one that he said a whole lot of things, but one of the things that really stuck in my mind, he called for the return of public executions where he would bring his children to watch the execution of their
You're
enemies.
kidding. You're
And Judy's
kidding.
on the record as saying that.
You're
You
sure
know,
that's true?
he's on the record. It's been quoted several times. I've read it. And you're
Right.
going, and he's anti-immigrant. When when a Democrat person was shot a couple of years ago, he sneered at it. He said it was fake and all that sort of stuff. So, Jude, you sort of go, but anyway, the bottom line of it, just to follow on, so there was a guy called Jimmy Kimmel, who's one of the best known presenters in America. He and Jude, I remember reading at the time, but I can't remember exactly what he said, so I'm not going to quote it. But he said something totally reasonable about Jimmy Kimmel or
Yeah,
about Charlie Kirk.
no, I don't think he
And
did, Pat. Sorry, correction.
yeah,
I think he said something about the guy that shot um, Charlie Kirk, and that
possibly.
uh,
Anyway, but bottom line, Jude, it wasn't very controversial, not as far as I remember, because it doesn't even stick in my mind. It wasn't anything that he deserved it or any of that crap.
hmm.
Anyway, his show was cancelled forthwith by Disney. And what happened is that what Disney has now lost 3.8 billion and worth. People are cancelling their subscriptions all over the place. But what you know, this land of the free, Jude. It seems to be that the Trump people have this thing about hate speech. In other words, the hate speech that they don't like. It's an unbelievable sort of thing. Basically, you never thought you'd live so long that some comedian in America would get his program pulled because a president didn't like what he said.
It's more than that. There's a lot of stuff going on. I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about a case of a guy who I think was a foreign national, but he got his green card and so on. But he made the mistake of going back to his original country briefly on a holiday. Now he's married to an American woman and has
Yeah,
American
I've
children.
read about this one.
And he's not getting back in. He's not getting back in.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of Irish people, documented or undocumented, will feel exactly the same way. They wouldn't
yeah,
want to leave because getting back in might be pretty tough. If they decide, now this guy in question, I think, had some offence on his record. But again, that's not reason for, I mean, presumably he paid the price of that. That's not reason because you've erred in the past that we're going to throw you out now. But it
yeah,
really is becoming very all the signs of an unstable state and a state of
yeah.
people will eventually say, "Oh, we need a strong man here to get things sorted out," and they'll turn to Trump. Um,
Yeah,
really sad. Yeah, you have figures about tourism in the States, which
yeah.
doesn't really
Jude,
surprise me.
I was just sitting yesterday evening. Uh, Apparently, particularly from America, Florida, from Canada, sorry, Florida, Vermont, and all that sort of. There's a massive, massive decline, and up to 40% drop in trade from Canada. A lot of other countries are also avoiding New York, and there's a lot of it's to do with this. If you're a brown person, brown-skinned person, coming from any of these sort of even European countries, like if you're a bit Spanish looking, you can find yourself, lifted, and so on. And apparently, they reckon that the American tourism trade could lose up to 65 billion this year. Now that's down totally to Donald Trump. Uh, a lot of farmers are also in big, big trouble. Soybean guys, usually China buys from Idaho and all that sort of place. Apparently, they haven't put on a single order this year. And so but Brazil is now supplying China. The Brazilian farmers must be clapping their hands, thanking Trump for his tariffs. So there's a massive downturn in the American economy and certain sectors, and it's all down to this ICE Trump fascism thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not.
But how long will it
I'm
take before the Americans cop on that they're isolated? As we speak today, Britain, Australia, various other countries are recognizing Palestine at the UN, and so there's two countries going to be sitting today on one side, Israel and America, and the rest of the world has basically moved on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad that's the case, but I mean, I sort of get a bit sick when I hear these people saying, "Oh, I have to recognize the state of Palestine, the suffering
Yeah,
of the Gazan people." Oh, for God's sake, how long did it take you to see
yeah,
that? You know, um, that thing about the forecast and the present state of tourism in America. I was thinking of Dev's thing. You remember, Dev said when he wanted to know what the Irish people were thinking. He would
yeah.
look into his own heart. I
Own
think if you
heart.
look into your own heart about going to America for a holiday, you get the answer. I mean, we talked about this before. Neither of us would feel particularly comfortable about going to the States. So, I mean,
Yeah,
if we're feeling that way, you can be sure there are an awful lot of other people who might have more reason. Although even their home is in America, that
yeah,
they say they'd be fearful, be fearful. Um,
yeah. But even the American customs people at airports, they're obnoxious. They are. A personal experience. No, not nothing. They're just not. They're not nice people.
But Pat,
Stand in the line there.
was that
All
at
this sort of thing.
JFK?
Yeah.
Aye.
When we're leaving, when we go to America the last time, we I think was it Shannon we flew out of. I can't remember now.
Hmm.
When you go, you can get to the sort of place. This American security guard stand behind that line. This sort of obnoxious, thing that they think they're the SS security,
Well,
Nazis.
yeah, yeah. Well, I've experienced the same sort of thing on occasions going to the States. And that they have a way of talking, and they don't use the word please a lot or
No,
kindly. So I don't know. On other occasions, I find them okay, business-like.
yeah,
So I wouldn't want to criticize them all the time.
no, no, no.
I think also
But
you get a better deal in Shannon than you would
yeah,
in JFK because there's probably
yeah,
more pressure of people coming through. But they do have
yeah.
a wee bit of learning about bedside manner before they.
Just putting it mildly, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's go to from the shambles. That is there's a joke, isn't there? I've got the punchline for it about Disney, but I can't remember what the first bit was.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was it? What
I haven't a clue.
do you
No,
not
you're
know?
going to have to. You're on
There
your
was
own this
something
one.
about, oh God, I'll have to check it out. I'll have it for next week or for next
Yeah,
our chat. Okay, Facebook and Jim Gavin. Apparently, they've copped onto what you're doing, Pat, that you're violating standards on Facebook and
yeah.
saying bad things about Jim
You about Jim Gavin, yeah.
Gavin. Is it you or is it other people?
No, I know someone like I don't really follow that sort of stuff, but we hear whatever it is, and Jim Gavin has written to Facebook. He's written to I think Meta or whatever the hell they call
Yeah,
the
yeah.
company, and so on. Apparently, 700,000 people have seen this, whatever the hell it is. I really genuinely don't know. But Gavin's made a point that I agree with totally. He says, if this is the way things are going, who in their right mind is going to stand for public office? Jude, if ever, every time you stand up, there's smears about you or your family or all the rest of it on social media. And here's the difference, Jude. When I was editor of the Area Journal, if I said Jude Collins is a liar and a cheat, I would have to be able to prove that Jude Collins is a liar and a cheat.
Hmm.
Any clown can say anything about you or me on social media and hide, but the chances of me or you suing them successfully is about nil.
Why is it? Well, I wonder is that the case now? Um, I mean, I remember a couple of people, fairly notable, no names mentioned, who sent me solicitors' letters or solicitors' texts about stuff that
Yeah,
I'd said. And I, of course,
yeah,
hastily withdrew and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Grovel, grovel. Please don't put me in jail." Uh,
yeah,
so there may not be clear rules governing things like Facebook and X, but there are dangers in saying certain things
oh yeah,
that can come back to bite you. Maybe it's just that they're not clear enough. One of the things I object to about Jim Gavin's complaint about Meta or Facebook is that things were said were violating standards, we're told it was, smearing. That's all
yeah,
very vague, terribly
yeah,
vague. I can see the argument when you say, well, we're not going to repeat it because that's just giving it
yeah.
more legs so it can walk further. Yeah, but if you don't tell us what it was, how are we to feel sympathy for him? And how are we to be
I
sure it
don't know.
wasn't all made up?
No, no. Apparently, no. RT, I
How do you
read a thing
know?
in
How do you
RT.
know?
And no, RT, there's a report in RT that says they have seen what he's complaining about, and
Oh,
700,000 people have seen it.
hmm.
That's been reported on, as far as I remember, in RT as well. So it is legitimate.
Well,
The,
was
the
it
other thing
really?
as well,
I wonder, again, RT didn't tell us what the thing was that
but
was
if
said.
you repeat it, but if you repeat it, you're repeating if it's libelous, you're
I
repeating
know
a label.
that, but
So
I still find, you see, I want to be sympathetic to Jim Gavin if he has been maligned. If there's been people saying really nasty stuff. But if it's just maybe rude stuff or contemptuous stuff, it could be any number of things. And even that's quite upsetting. If somebody says you're
Well,
a
Jude, I
half-wit.
think the term they used was there have been or has been a series of derogatory statements about himself and his family. Now,
But
Jude,
that's
but I know someone, Jude, derogatory that's a broad church. So I don't, and I you see, I
that's
genuinely don't
exactly
know,
it,
but
Pat. I think
but
you see,
no, but Jude, no, I think if RT said they've seen the stuff, and and they're sort of reporting that I presume that they're accepting that it is reasonably derogatory and unfair. It isn't. But one thing you're leaving out of the equation: a lot of people can hide behind anonymous, fake accounts,
well, that's
and
true.
and they can say anything about Jude Collins, Pat McGarry, Jim Gavin, and Uncle Tom Cobley, and it's very difficult to find out who they are.
Well, that's true. On the other hand, I think Jim Gavin and everybody who's running for president or public office of any kind, you have to be ready for the brickbats. And as you know, and people go sort of wild and say damn stupid stuff and ignorant stuff online that they wouldn't say to your face. I don't know. I think maybe except there was threats involved or something of that nature, or except there was charges of misconduct of a grievous nature about Jim Gavin. I think you just have to accept the rest of it.
No, Judah, no, don't buy it. Look, here, I'll tell you why. Right, one of the old tricks was, a reporter wanted a nasty story. He would say, ring up somebody. He's still beating your wife, and it's yesterday. Jude Collins denied that he had still beating his wife. So and then if you start defending yourself, wait a minute, that's not what I said. You're on the losing end because then you're explaining and you're trying. And Collins yesterday said there was a scurrilous report, but you're giving the oxygen to the whole story.
But the thing is, well, that's exactly my point. That by complaining about it, you're giving people say, Jesus, they're saying bad things about Jim Gavin. Let me see on Facebook. Where did they say it? I wonder what they said. I think that's almost in a way could.
But but Jude, if somebody says something that's so outrageous that and derogatory, and you don't address it, people then take it as true.
If it is something really outrageous.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I think, there. I'm reading the book about Charlie Haughey and the
Mm.
levels to which people go in terms of a very big, thick book. It says here, it says here, look,
Jesus.
that's
I
how thick it
yeah.
is.
Uh,
I got it from a relative of Charlie Haughey's. And
uh,
it's full of details of parliamentary manoeuvres during his life. And as you know, he was a very controversial figure. But my God,
yeah.
the way that people ducked and weaved and betrayed each other, it's sort of
Mm.
shocking. But that's the nature of politics. You've got to be ready for that. If you're going to go
Yeah.
for president of Ireland, I mean, that's the least controversial of them, probably. I think you've got to be ready for the odd brickbat. The other thing is this. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, this is cynical me. I wouldn't be surprised that Jim Gavin's handlers were to say, how can we win some more sympathy? He's a decent guy. People know, look at him, he's a decent guy. How could we heighten that degree of sympathy? How could we get people to sort of move to his side and say, yeah, keep away from Jim Gavin, he's a decent man, and so on? Well, maybe let's float a few nasty things. And immediately, any right thinking person, if they get to hear what it was, will say, no, that's too far. Don't say that about somebody. Uh, we don't hear what it is. We say, oh, geez, we can dream up all sorts of things that they're saying. And
Yeah.
sympathy, my sympathy lies towards Gavin immediately. So,
Uh,
it's tricky. These guys, don't tell me that I'm a conspiracy theorist by saying that. These guys who are running campaigns and so on, they are surely they are 10 times as expert and well versed in the ways of tying people up.
yeah, Jude, like I've been a victim of that. In fact, I've only found out this thing quite recently that I've never heard of it. No, and because I was involved in a political campaign some time back. There are dark arts, and there's no doubt there's some people brilliant at it. You know, Trump's people are absolutely brilliant at it.
Mm,
Smear somebody
mm,
and whatever,
mm.
then make Trump out to be the good guy and whatever. It's all over all over the show, and like it's quite possible that somebody says, "Hey, you know, Jim was our guy," and Fianna Fáil guys. Let's be honest, Jude, they are past masters at it. And I'm not saying for a second it's all hypothetical. They probably didn't do it, but it's not, you can't rule it out because
Well, that's
politics is
exactly what I'm
politics.
saying. I don't know that they did, and maybe probably chances are they didn't. But I'm saying you'd be a very naive person not to believe that it could be an effort to win sympathy
What
for
is it
him.
they said if boxing hadn't been discovered, politics would have been the dirtiest game in town. The way boxing years for years in America, the mafia ran boxing, and
Yeah, yeah,
more
yeah.
boys took a fall and from a punch
Yeah.
or rather than being punched. If you know what
Take a fall in the fourth round and we'll give you ten
I
thousand
mean.
dollars.
We make 10 million. Go ahead.
I was what was I going to say now? Oh yes, I want see you were talking about Jimmy Kimmel, and we are talking about Charlie Kirk, and
Yeah.
do you remember the phrase somebody used on 9/11? Today or this weekend is a very good time for
It's a good
breaking
week to
bad
get out
news.
bad news.
So
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of talk about this in terms of America at present, especially with Trump. He floods the zone, as they say, with
So
all sorts
yeah.
of stuff. But one cancels out the other. Because have you heard anybody talking about Jeffrey Epstein in the last week,
No.
2 weeks? And yet everybody was talking about that. They were saying even his own side are disgusted by this. And
Yeah.
you look at the card. I mean, there's the evidence. And shouldn't we be
Yeah.
getting Nobody's talking about it now. So you
Yeah.
wonder, like I'm
I
not
mean,
saying,
last week as well, he announced that he was suing the New York Times for 17 billion.
hmm,
On Friday, a judge threw it out, said it was a ridiculous thing. But hey, who remembers that Epstein? Because that took that off the agenda, news agenda as well. Like there are quite serious implications for free speech in America. I think that's two or three programs he's got taken off air. He has gone after several media. He got 15 million from ABC for apparently netted about Kamala Harris, and stuff like that, and so on. And he's also has communications guy who's in charge of the networks. There's a fellow called Brenton Carr. She's another Irish. He's saying that if these people keep criticizing Trump, it's out in the open. They could lose their license. You know.
You see, a lot of people are at his mercy. It seems to me that my heart fell when I heard that Columbia and other universities were essentially bending the knee and saying, "Okay, we'll
Yeah.
stop all demonstrations on our campuses." What the hell? I admire, of course, the only reason Harvard are standing up to him is they've tons and tons of money, so they can afford to. But my heart sank, the universities preach, free speech and intellectual pursuits, logic and so on. And then when they come under pressure, they're willing to bend the knee and kiss Mr. Trump's
Yes,
bum
ass. Yeah,
as
exactly.
quick as anybody else. It's depressing, depressing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come nearer home. Do you know anything about Maria Steen? She must be one of the least publicized figures running for president.
Yeah.
She may have dropped out by now because she's a
I'm
small
not sure, Jude.
small fry.
What is it?
She's got 10
She's
Oireachtas members. She's got 10 who
she's
have
got 10.
said,
I think she
well,
needs 20.
that's
Uh,
right. But they say that the four independent Ireland TDs could well be part of the mix for her. So she could be touching on 18 at present, which is just too short of 20, which is all she needs. When is the deadline for these? Somebody actually been accepted as
I'm
that?
not sure, Jude. I know the election's the 24th of October, so
Hmm.
I'd say about another week. Probably the deadline were clear.
Hmm.
Um, if she gets a 20 elected members, she's in. Jude, I had never heard tell of her, but apparently, Into definitely are
Oh yeah,
going
I see
back.
Padre Cabine up there. Yeah.
They're going for the 1950s Ireland vote. You know, it's all traditional Irish Catholic stuff. Apparently, this woman, she's an architect. I think she might be a barrister. She's married to a senior counsel. No, she's an architect, and she could be a barrister as well. I'm not sure. Her husband apparently is a senior counsel. She's been a spokesman for the Iona Institute, which is a fairly right wing Catholic.
Mm.
She apparently has some connection with Opus Dei as well.
Oh.
She thinks Ireland's gone too liberal and we're all very emotional, but we should go back to living like we should in the 1950s. Now, no divorce, no contraception, no
Mm,
whatever,
mm,
God knows whatever else.
mhm.
No, into I thought when Pater Tobin uh, that he would have been sort of much more coming from the left wing family of Sinn Féin would be more left wing, but his party seems to have swung way to the right.
Well, he certainly has made a yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you have to remember the fact that he parted ways with Sinn Féin, and while some people would say, "Oh, it was this or that or the other thing," simple fact is he parted ways with them because they are supporting the Eighth Amendment or whatever it was called,
Yeah,
allowing abortion. Now, I personally, I think he's a very courageous guy because regardless or not of whether you think it's a good thing to allow abortion or you think it's a bad thing, there's not everybody who puts their job on the line. I mean, he was so often the spokesman on TV for Sinn Féin before he
yeah,
broke away that people were saying, geez, does Sinn Féin only have one guy? And he was very effective because he knew he had the stuff at
absolutely.
his fingertips. So I'm slow. I mean, I've got mixed feelings about this abortion too. Probably when everything's said and done, I'm against it, but that doesn't mean that that's going to shape every view I have. I see.
Uh,
This is where we fall into, I think, a trap. You could have somebody like him who would be against abortion, but might be very much in favor of a redistribution of wealth or
yeah,
defense of small people who can't afford to get a home or
yeah,
God knows what. I just think there's dangers in saying, oh, this guy's a right wing guy and these people are left wing. I'm a little bit doubtful about it. Maybe you can see how I'm um,
Gordon.
biased in his favor. I like him.
Yeah,
I think he's very courageous. It's something I would never have the courage to do. And well, he's smart, but I don't know that he's going to get this woman as president of Ireland, and I don't even think he's likely to get her onto the ticket. But
Yeah.
I suppose in
Uh,
pursuing it, he's
but
letting.
someone, I have had the occasion to engage in discourse with some of these people, and sort of I call them the N2 types. And someone, I don't know where they're coming from. Do they want Ireland to go back a priest sort of ridden society? Do they want to go back? Due to hypocrisy, we had one of the highest rates of mental illness in the world because there was such Bean and all those writers said no, this there was like a tap put on it or a valve put on Ireland. The church made all the rules. No divorce. You married somebody and they turned out to be an alcoholic or a pedophile or gay. You could do nothing about it. You were supposed to, if you're a woman, contraception wasn't allowed. You're supposed to have one child after another, and irrespective of whether you could afford it, your health or social economic situation, hunger, poverty, and what all that.
Mm.
Dude, I don't regard that as the good old days. I've no time for it
No,
whatsoever.
but I think we overestimate the. There's a danger you might overestimate the power that the Catholic Church had. It certainly hasn't much power
No,
now.
Jude, I don't buy that. I
Well,
really
let
don't buy
me give
that
you
for a
an
second.
example.
Go ahead.
People say, you just mentioned it, contraception, and they say,
Yeah.
"Oh God, Catholic Church really weighing down on people." Now, most people say that the pinnacle of clericalism or whatever in Ireland was the time that Pope John Paul II came, when several million flocked
1979.
to the
Yeah,
Phoenix
yeah,
Park or wherever. But I mean,
yeah.
the fact of the matter is, Catholic families from, I would say, the late 60s have shrunk in size stunningly. In other
Mm,
words, the Catholic Church still, as far as I know, preaches against contraception, artificial contraception, as they say. It's
yeah,
perfectly obvious that most people have simply ignored that part. Even these are people who are devout and will go to church and all the rest of it. They just don't do it. So
yeah,
when people want to do something or not do something, they don't allow. In Ireland, in that case, they don't bother with. They just sort of walk past it. I think there's another thing is confession. I mean, there's a lot of devout people I know, Catholics, but they would say confession. I haven't been confession in years. I believe that God forgives me my sins. He understands what kind of person I am. So there's all
yeah,
sorts of things. Joe Brolly said it well one time. He said something about the a la carte Catholic. And I think
yeah.
Catholics have for a long time, even from the supposedly darkest days, certainly in the early 70s, were quietly stepping past many of the rules. One other thing I'll say, Pat, uh, people say, and you get this with the likes of Fintan O'Toole, that Ireland was a dark, dreary place, repression of religion, the clerics, Charles McQuaid, and all the rest of it. I was in Dublin as a student during the time that John Charles McQuaid wouldn't allow anybody, Catholics, to go to Trinity, and they didn't. Um, I had a whale of a time. I thought it was a
Yeah.
bloody marvelous place. None of this grey skies at all. I mean, my life, well, maybe it was that I was young, but there's a terrible danger in overstating the case. Yes, of course, there was a right wingness about things. Yes, it was a sort of reactionary state. What do you expect when you cut the country in two? Um, it's there were bad things about it, but there was enough good things that people could find to do that were bloody great. I mean, pubs open on Sundays and closing time at 11 and dances and it was all sorts of.
I think well, like it wasn't sort of doom and gloom all the time, but hey,
But
Jude,
that's
I
the
remember
impression
people get.
people do give us that once
Aye,
we got the
uh,
the the clerics, clergy's foot from our neck, that then now we're right, now we're happy. But sure, we know that there's other problems then too. There's people won't allow you to
yeah.
say this, that, or
Well,
the
Jude,
other.
there's no such thing as a perfect society. But you remember Nell McCafferty and the contraceptive train? People have been arrested.
Jesus.
Jude, when I was at St. Eunice,
What is that about? That was rubbish, I think. I really do think
no,
that
they
was rubbish.
delivered. They told the guards what they were going. It was the whole
I
idea was to
know,
embarrass
I
you.
know, but
Yeah,
I think Pat, I think that was personal publicity because again, I say people were quietly finding ways to get contraceptives and not look at the family size is the answer to that. Up until
Yeah,
my mother's time, say 1950 roughly, or 55, there was certainly people were having not using contraception, Catholics weren't, because they're huge bloody families. I met a man who was down in Dublin the other day, or was it Mayo? No, it was Dublin. And he was telling me he's from the Liberties in Dublin, and there was 14 in his family. I was including the
yeah,
parents, and they had two rooms. Two rooms.
yeah.
But he
Jude,
himself, he
there were
himself has got, he himself, his wife was there. He himself has got, he's left the Liberties a long time. He's got six sons and one daughter, or else it's six daughters.
a big fan. No, Jude, there was a program on RT last night called, I think it's The Record Show, and
Yeah.
it's taken from the archives, Irish archives. And what Katie Hannon presenting it. But anyway, bottom line of it was there was one case. See, they're delving into various stories. There was a story, 19, I think 37. A girl, a young fella were sitting on a wall and they kissed. The girl, they were arrested. The girl was sentenced to a month in jail for outraging public decency.
Where was this?
And the judge was a guy called Goff, Goff.
Uh,
He said it was disgusting and whatever, and it's about time that the Catholic Church and the priests clamped down on this sort of stuff and all the rest.
when
No,
was that, Pat? When was that? When did
hold
that
on, hold
happen?
on. I'll let you have a good go. You got saying that the Catholic Church, we over egged it and all the rest of it. No, we did not, Jude.
I did.
Look at your industrial schools. Look at where
Here, before
St.
you
Colum's
leave,
College.
stick for a moment with that kissing couple that got put in
Yeah,
jail. What?
yeah.
When did that happen?
I think it was 1937.
Ah,
And
jeez.
the judge,
Ah, you
but
see, that's
that was the era, the epoch of the power of the Catholic
But you
Church.
see, that's
And,
not
and I
what
remember,
many
Jude,
people
I went,
say. I would agree with you there. Yes, I agree with you. In the
yeah,
1930s, definitely. Clericalism in Ireland would be in its full stride, and it did force people into certain ways of thinking. But then, people in all sorts of situations, England would have been a reflection of that, but it wouldn't have been the church. It would have been sort of social mores and scandal
yeah,
and, the neighbor next door. Um, I just think that we need not to blame the church for these things. They certainly had a hand in them, but they weren't half as
yeah.
powerful at every sphere as people thought.
Jude, no, I think you're giving the rainbow or the what do you call them, blue color spectacles. Jude,
You're
look at
saying
if
I
a
should
girl got
join into,
pregnant,
eh?
you're a cert. But anyway, if a wee girl got pregnant, she was disowned, and the next thing she was on a boat for somewhere. What do you call it? The industrial schools. Jude, and the abuse that went on in secondary schools was
Ah,
off the charts. Priests got away almost with murder. So what is it? 700, 800 kids buried in a septic tank in Galway. This sort of thing saying,
okay, but
God,
Pat.
look,
Okay, we've
we're
only two
exaggerating.
minutes
I
left,
know.
Pat. 2 minutes left. I
Yeah,
want to ask you a question, and then I want to just mention, well, two questions actually. One is they talk a lot about there's abusive clerics in schools. Did you went to Catholic schools, primary school, secondary
yeah.
school? Did you
That,
ever witness abuse? I mean, sexual abuse.
I certainly saw physical abuse.
No, 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 not sexual abuse.
No, no, but
There did
Jude, it
I.
didn't happen during.
There did
No,
I.
but
Well, but of course it was going on then. That's what everybody
but
says.
it was going on at night and the cubicles. It wasn't going on in the class during the day.
Was it? Well, I was in a school where there were cubicles, and I was in them for 2 years, and I never heard a word about it. Uh,
Yeah,
Now, I'm just saying that here's you and me, both of us come through Catholic education, and yet we can't put our
yeah,
finger on an example of it.
yeah,
Obviously, it was going on somewhere, but
yeah,
I am amazed that we never experienced it or got a whiff of it anyway.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I just think, it's not black and white, not black and white. Anyway, final question, Pat. We didn't talk about this at all. We didn't talk about Sinn Féin's choice of presidential candidate. They've gone with Catherine Connolly. I said Morrison. Connolly.
Jude, it was a
Good
non-event,
choice.
absolute non-event. We actually said it on Saturday or Friday, whatever day it was, that sure we didn't even know they were going to make an announcement. And I actually said to you, if they go with Catherine Connolly, what's this big event? That is going to change
And I
records.
said, I said that I thought Mary Lou was bigging it up a bit because she wanted to make
Yeah,
it sound
exactly.
dramatic. And that's what it was.
Yeah,
It depends on
yeah,
how they now work. I don't think Do you think she'll get in? The numbers, if you take it against Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, are so big in the
Yeah,
first and second. Is it on that basis? First and second choice?
yeah. Well, well, geez, I'm not quite sure. No, I don't think it's. No, I think it's a
Okay,
straightforward
quick,
vote this
quick
time.
pat now because you've about 20 seconds.
No, I think she could do it, Jude. There's Catherine Conley is liked it right across the board.
Well, I'll say this. If they do, that's the end of Micheál Martin. If Heather Humphreys
Yeah.
wins, that's the end of Micheál Martin. So the one bad
We
thing that
shall
can
see.
happen is a decent man like Jim Gavin should
Gavin.
win. Isn't that terrible? I don't want this decent
Yeah.
man to win because of the repercussions. Okay, Pat,
Yeah.
that was a
All the
jolly
best,
good time.
Jude.
And I'll have the answer to Walt Disney next week or at the end of the week.
Good for you.
Okay. That's
All
a
the
good
best, Jude.
joke. It was Billy Connolly told it.